Literally, we worked on it for 45 minutes, and no matter what we tried to do, we even tried that old timey thing like you do with your headphones when the wire's not quite working, but if you get that sweet spot, you can still hear the music. We never found the sweet spot. So we're dead in the water with the microphone. Fortunately, I got a very good big mouth, so I can talk really loud, and I'm going to try to do that tonight. So just wanted you to know. So welcome to the April meeting of Community Board 6. We're thankful to have all of you with us tonight. As a matter of housekeeping, we are going to ask that each of you be mindful as to the camera in the middle of the room. We record our meetings and we post them on YouTube about 48 hours after our meetings. So please try your darndest to not walk in front of it, to either walk, if you're coming up to the front, I know it can be tricky, but just walk alongside this way. That would be fine. We want to be able to give as clear of a recording as we can. Tonight we are joined by, I believe, we got 13 new members, but because of the very quick notice, some of our new members couldn't be here. So I believe we have about 12 new board members, and we are so glad to have you here with us. Some of you are first-time applicants. Some of you are repeat applicants, and you finally got on the board. And then some of you, for some sadistic reason, have chosen to return to the board, Bruce Grossberg. So we are very happy to have all of you here tonight. Tonight, attending remotely via extraordinary circumstances is Dr. Renee, Mara, Katrina Schneiderman, and Valen Ellison tonight. So they will be here on WebEx, and we apologize if you can barely hear us. We are having technical difficulties tonight. And to briefly explain, Community Board 6 is able to offer a hybrid meeting option as we have voted on an extraordinary circumstances resolution that allows remote participation in very specific and limited circumstances. So I just wanted to explain that to the new members. We'll explain more about that after when we do an orientation for our new members on this board. Okay? Is Michael Arcadi here this evening? I do not see him. Okay, he usually leads us in the pledge. So if we could all rise and turn to the back of the room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Have a seat. Make yourselves comfortable. Tanya? Good evening. Are you going to be able to, you can do timing, right?
I can. I was just asking how to do it.
Okay, cool.
All right.
I'll go through this part then. We will start our meeting with comments from the public. Our board believes that it is important to make space for members of our community to make statements, whether we agree with their sentiments or not. You just have to speak to our office by 3:30 p.m. the day of our board meeting. Tonight, we have about 11 speakers, I presume, and individual speakers, as usual, get 3 minutes to speak, and organization representatives will get 5 minutes to speak. Speakers will be given a warning when you have 30 seconds remaining. Tanya Padgett will be our timekeeper this evening. During public comment, we know that you may hear things that you may agree with or you may disagree with. In the interest of time and the need to respect each speaker, we ask that all applause, cheers, and cajoling be kept to oneself. Speakers will be called in the order in which they signed up. Okay? So our first speaker this evening will be Ms. Leslie Brown. Ms. Leslie Brown from the Forest Hills Chamber of Commerce. And you can come here and stand in front of the podium if that works for you. Stand here if that works for you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. As Heather said, I'm Leslie Brown. I'm the president of the Forest Hills Chamber of Commerce, and I do think I have a loud voice, so I hope you can hear me. I have a prepared statement short one. I put out sort of an update as to what the chamber has been doing in response to a resolution that was put out on February 23rd regarding our small businesses and Forest Hills. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I will start with, by saying that we had this meeting at Bear Burger. It was completely packed. Several days before the meeting, in fairness, I went around, I had an employee go with me, and we distributed the resolution that Community Board 6 put out so that all the business owners would have a chance to read it. I also emailed it to about 300 businesses. And so at the meeting, all the points of the resolution were discussed, and it was unanimously decided that the resolution was ill-advised for Austin Street, and the majority of safety issues that were cited were not really truthful. We formed a committee because we wanted an independent study, because we feel that studies that have been done in the past have not been unbiased. And business owners are all in agreement that we should be doing this. They also did bring up a safety issue that wasn't brought up, which has to do with scooters and the concern that they see all the time is a safety issue with scooters. The scooters have caused serious injury to a worker on Austin Street, a fitness instructor. He was in a coma for several months because of his injury with the scooter, and we would absolutely like to see some safety issues regarding that. I don't know how much time I have left, so I'm going to skip over now to the prepared statement from a business owner, and I'll read it verbatim. My name is Dimitri, and I'm the proud owner of Dimitri Chai's boutique located on Austin Street in Forest Hills. We have been in business since 2006 and have seen many changes in the past 17 years. The latest topic, removal of cars making Austin Street pedestrian, has all businesses extremely worried. We greatly depend on our clients who drive to our businesses from other neighborhoods. As is, the implementation of bike lanes and removal of parking spaces on our street has already caused a huge decline of people wanting to come to our neighborhood to shop and dine simply because parking is always a problem. Removing cars in total will negatively impact our community because businesses will not survive. For the past 17 years, I have worked 7 days a week to make my American dream come true. But fear now that in an instance it can all collapse with a wrong decision such as this one. Yes, there's a bit of congestion usually on Fridays and Saturdays, but it is still pretty manageable. The only help we really need is implementing rules and regulations for all the scooter drivers. If anything, they cause a lot of congestion by driving in wrong directions, not observing traffic lights, riding on sidewalks, and parking wherever and however, taking up space and making it more challenging for cars to drive. Again, the removal of cars will hurt all commercial spaces and ultimately have a tremendous negative impact on the Forest Hills community. I hope and understand the true effects of this campaign and will rethink on how we can better this commercial street. I also want to say in closing that I have 1,200 signatures in support of the Chamber's stance on this. Go to change.org, sign our petition. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. Next is Marla Cornejo from 5 Royal Cafe.
I'm feeling dull. I had surgery today, so if I go over a little bit.
Are you feeling all right?
I am, but my addiction is the greatest, and I'd like to leave.
If you at any point feel like it's bothering you, I will definitely, I'll wait for you.
I just have to get the right distance here.
Understood.
Good evening, I appreciate you granting me permission to speak this evening. My name is Marlon Cornejo. I lived in Forest Hills Gardens for 21 years, and I am the owner of Five Borough Cafe, located at 7205 Austin Street. We have been doing business at that location since 1989. In addition, I'm an active board member of the Forest Hills Chamber of Commerce. I am proud to say we support all the chamber events, the Holiday Light program, every school and religious institution event, as well as every season of FHYAA. We don't pay for advertising. We invest in our community. I am only one of many business owners that contribute to the community day after day, year in and year out. It is because of a thriving downtown business area that many of the events and charities can be sustained. Unfortunately, in recent years, COVID notwithstanding, it has become increasingly more difficult to dig into our pockets to support these meaningful events, as there are many. We all know that we were asked for our input when there was discussion about bike lanes. Our cries fell on deaf ears. Ours is a unique community where other shopping districts have neighborhood parking. Austin Street backs onto Forest Hills Gardens. There is no public parking behind Austin Street. Taking away 300 plus spaces for an overwhelmingly underused bike lane came as a great detriment to many businesses. Not only is the bike lane underused, it is also a traffic hazard as trucks park and cars go into the bike lane to pass the parked vehicles. In addition, the moped and motor scooter drivers drive in the wrong direction on the bike lanes. Are they for bikes or motorized vehicles? After the bike lanes, the effort to limit cars started on Austin Street. First, truck loading zone signs were installed along the street, signs that a person needed a PhD to decipher. Morning after morning, while enjoying my eggs over easy, staring out the Austin diner window, I would have to jump out of my seat to warn the unaware drivers not to park their car in the zone in front of my store or receive a $150 fine. There were always cars and continued to be cars in those zones every day. After loading zones, spots were eliminated to make the crosswalks ridiculously wide at corners in mid-street. Not only once did they change those zones, but I think they changed them twice. With COVID, we lost spots for outdoor dining, which we have and use at Five Borough Cafe. We have considered removing it. However, it is very popular in good weather, and we would have to compete with other restaurants for customers that prefer to sit outdoors. When the city says they have to come down, we will happily comply. Austin Street is a destination. People come from all over Queens and other boroughs. I'm going to skip to the very end, my last part of it. Eliminating parking and cars will be the end of a vibrant community. My business is my legacy. I hope that there will be something left to pass to my sons when you make your plans that benefit a few and hurt so many more.
Thank you so much. Next up is the very Reverend Francis Hesnall. Reverend. Marla, did you have more in your statement?
I did. I jumped to the very end because
That's fine. If you can email it to the office, we can enter the entire statement into our minutes for next week. So you can do that anytime this week. Just email the office.
Can I just leave it here?
That would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm the administrator of Our Lady Queen of Martyrs Church on Ascan and Queens Boulevard. We have been terribly affected by the bike lanes. This is going to kill our entrance and exit into the church for school and for church activities, which we have every Sunday. We have 2 Sundays of the year where Austin Street is closed for the Austin Street Fair. We lose 25% of our congregation on that day because they know it's coming. We report it in the bulletin. They know it's coming. They go to another church. There's no parking. The traffic is horrible. The bike lanes have made it worse. Stayed in our dining room. I'm gracious that somebody saw, choice.org. I read many of those comments. I scratched my head. I don't think these people live in the neighborhood. It's really very interesting to see that they're either not familiar with the area or not familiar with the street. But Austin Street, as you know, has 5 boroughs and has supported us very much, and we're grateful for your continued support over the years, and all the other businesses that are here. Backs up onto the railroad tracks, not only the gardens, the railroad tracks. So there's no way to eat, ingress or egress behind it to deliveries and this and that. You can't go on the other side of the street. It sounds wonderful on paper. Oh, let's have a pedestrian walk. Let's be like Fifth Avenue on Easter Parade and all this business. But it is something regular. It will be detrimental to our church, which exits onto 72nd Road and has to make the left onto Austin Street to get out. It's impossible now. It'll terribly hurt us in the future. Bishop Sanchez, our pastor, has said this particular statement, which I will read in his absence. Many of you know this is a very important week for many religions, and my gesture of greeting to our fellow people celebrating this week, Passover and Ramadan. 13 years I worked as the administrative chaplain on Rikers, so I set all these things up. So made the room, made the space, got the food, all this business. So I'm missing a very important facet of our services this week I should say, by coming here, because I felt the future of our parish determined this event. I'm just going to read this very short statement from Bishop, and then I will sit down. I understand that the Department of Transportation is conducting a study for the safety of Austin Street. As member of the Our Lady Queen of Martyrs Church and Academy, located on the corner of Austin Street and Ascan Avenue and Queens Boulevard and Ascan Avenue, any study which may lead to the recommendation of pedestrianizing Austin Street near Ascan will have a deleterious effect on our church and academy population. A significant portion of our population, parents, teachers, and children, churchgoers, rely on car transportation. Some of our teachers and students do not live in the immediate area, and some of our churchgoers are too elderly to walk. To access our church parking lot, which helps to alleviate parking congestion, you need to access 72nd Road, Austin Street, and Ascan Avenue. We appreciate your attention to this reality and the challenges which would be caused by limiting this access. Thank you very much for your time. It's very nice meeting all of you. You know exactly where we are. Come and take a visit.
Thank you very much. I have one comment to read tonight from the Women's Club of Forest Hills, with over 325 members who live in Forest Hills, Regal Park, and Kew Gardens. They stand in solidarity with the Jewish community against hate and anti-Semitism. We agree with our elected officials that hate has no place in our community, city, or country. Sincerely, Diane Elkin, Chair, Community Affairs, the Women's Club of Forest Hills. We thank them for that statement tonight. Next is one of our own, Heidi Chang, who is here on behalf of the 112th Precinct Community Council.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Heidi Chain. I am, one of my roles as president of the Precinct Council. I asked to speak regarding what has been happening in our community. Terrible hate crimes. It is absolutely awful. We were victimized.
Heidi,
regarding-
speak louder.
We were victimized. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Good. We were victimized, and it was awful. We were victimized by the Lutheran Church. We have been victimized with anti-Asian hate, and now we've been victimized with anti-Semitic graffiti. It is something that we really feel a need to do something. So our precinct council is going to try to get into all of the schools and encourage a discussion to be on anti-hate. To help do this, we are sponsoring, and I brought some. If you want to take pictures of the flyers, I brought some. Where's the camera for this, so that if I don't get it onto the camera, somebody
Well, the
can
camera's back there, but
Oh,
we can,
okay.
we can post it. We can post it on social
We
media.
can post it. Okay, here are some. Here are some.
Thank you.
Okay, anyway, what we're trying to do, we're sponsoring it, we're having prizes. Any school in the community, any student who lives in the community and goes to a school anywhere else, all welcome. We want the kids to think about it, we want kids to learn about it, and we're trying to do our May meeting and display every poster. And every kid is a winner. We'll have other prizes for real winners, but we want everybody to be able to come in and see. So I want to let you know now, our May meeting is gonna be May 17th, I believe, I hope, we're gonna be at the Legion Hall, but that I have to confirm. We have to do something, and we have to do it united. And everybody here who has other groups, please join us. Please encourage people to join us, because this is ridiculous. We live here, this is us, this is our community. It is horrible, it is important, and I just wanted to let everybody know and ask everybody for your help. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Next up is Paul Singh from Age Restaurant. Paul? Hi, good evening, come on up.
Good evening, everybody. How are you all? As we all have gathered here tonight to condemn the DOT decision to eliminate the parking for Austin Street, which is the out of our sales, as we all are experiencing a huge drop in our sales since COVID had hit. We were recovering, then the Queens Boulevard parking was taken away. Huge decline in our businesses, which is greater than 30%. Is a reason why people shop in Forest Hills. And by eliminating the parking and opening after 8 p.m. Austin Street, I want to ask you all, what kind of crowd are we trying to attract into our neighborhood? We will lose clients, and they would go to other parts of Queens, which is Long Island City, or the other side of Astoria. Instead of that, we should all make more parking lots and encourage more people to come in for sales and not to discourage them to come into the neighborhood. I, along with other business owners in the neighborhood, are really not ready for this. I've been living in Forest Hills since 2004. I moved to Long Island in 2009, but I've been coming to Forest Hill every single day of my life. I have 2 successful businesses in Forest Hills, and I see if this happens, I will certainly lose them in future, which is my life savings. I strongly disagree and want you all to reconsider and to make a better decision on it. Reconsider. Thank you very much.
Next is Kalina Ma. Kalina?
Yeah.
Hi, come on up.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Kalina Ma. I'm pleased to be here. This is my second time coming board. Glad to hear. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Kalina Ma. I run a business at Forest Hills MK Vision Center. It's a eyeglass store that's been here about almost 13 years. And I'm also a member of the Forest Hills Chamber of Commerce. And I also echo the other businesses here that we are not in favor of this taking away their parking. This will drastically affect my business. And ever since I've been in Forest Hills, I love Forest Hills. I love Forest Hills, and I over there. Now they're telling me to speak louder. I've been a resident here. I had my first baby here. I even, took the stroller to go down Austin Street all the time when I was a mom. And I have since moved to Long Island. I drive almost every day to Forest Hills. And I need to park here. I need to get into Austin Street. And I would love to have some reconsideration of the proposal. I would like to have an independent study done regarding this. And I suggest that we can't pedestrianize the streets without a better alternative, okay? I walk in Austin Street. I love Austin Street. I love the restaurants there. I love the climate there. So I know that there are some dangers that exist with like the scooters and the buses that may need some, additional rules and maybe more, some police activity to direct cars. That could be proposed as well. So there are things that you need to do first before having this drastic change. So I don't want to say too much because I echo the business owners moral and the gentleman, and also the reverend. So again, Versus is amazing, okay? So I hope that we don't make this drastic change to Austin Street without a better thought process. I thank everyone for your time.
Thank you so much. Next is Odette Wilkins. Odette, good evening.
I regret to inform you that 5G towers have been allowed to invade our community in a meeting held on February 15th, 2023 by the chair and the executive committee. Good evening. My name is Odette Wilkins. I'm president and general counsel of Wire Broadband, a nonprofit in Forest Hills focusing on safe technology for the public. I am also a technology attorney and have been for over 20 years. I'm also a longtime resident of Forest Hills since 1976. Link 5G cell towers are 3 stories high with multiple antennas from multiple telecom companies, and it can be as close as 5 feet away from your home, school, or medical facility. The Executive Committee on February 15th, 2023 heard a presentation by the Office of Technology on the 5G towers. The process should have been opened up for full public participation and the full participation of the entire board. I have a point of order. The executive committee took final action at that meeting, and that does not appear to be authorized by the bylaws. The executive committee decided on their own initiative to give themselves final decision-making authority to allow the 5G towers without bringing it to the board for discussion and a vote. Article 15, committees, section 1H states, the board may not delegate any final decision-making authority to a committee. And at the executive committee meeting, the chair said that since they were elected, they could vote on the issue apparently as a final decision. If the board cannot delegate to a committee final decision-making authority, then it would mean that a committee cannot delegate to itself final decision-making authority. It appears that the executive committee was not authorized to take final action without bringing it to the full board to authorize that action. And therefore that action may be rendered null and void. The chair commented that OTI is transparent because they showed a map of the location of the 5G towers. Well, they weren't transparent because I have asked for a copy of the FCC compliance reports. These are the radio frequency reports that indicate the intensity of the antennas, what antennas are going to be used. Nothing since 2021, since I put in a Freedom of Information law request, none of that information has been forthcoming. They have not been transparent. The chair attempted to discredit the people who commented in the last meeting by stating that several were involved with posting a flyer about the 5G situation in Forest Hills with typographical errors, specifically stating Claire Schulman rather than Lynn Schulman and Alan Hevesy rather than Andrew Hevesy. Well, frankly, having been in Forest Hills for so long, I like them. And I have a fondness for my old politicians. And apparently it just came through in the flyers. But the chair said that several people were involved with the posting of the flyer. How does she know that? Can she name the people? No. Those who spoke were brave people who commented on the grave health hazards of 5G and of their own personal experiences having suffered from wireless radiation. They are the canaries in the mine. They were warning us of the impending dangers of these gigantic 5G towers coming into our neighborhood. And what was the chair concentrating on? Typographical errors on the flyer. The district manager said that he notified the Forest Hills Gardens Association of the 5G tower plan in front of PS 101 in the gardens. Well, the fact is that I was the one first notified the Gardens Association. I spoke to the president of the Gardens Association. He had no idea about this at all. So the process regarding the 5G towers should have been opened up for full public participation and full participation of the entire board, and I would like that to be opened up for full board participation according to bylaws. I'm here to protect the health and safety of our community, and I will continue to speak out against the 5G towers in our community as I have been doing throughout New York City. We now have 12 community boards that have disapproved and have voted for moratoriums on this. And there are more community boards that I'm working with throughout the entire city that are considering this. And I can't understand why we can't come together and actually have it opened up for full board discussion. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna take a point here to clarify some things. Typically, I don't like to do this during public comment. I like to click along just because I want to be respectful of the public's time, but I also want to be respectful of facts. Facts are, this was not a decision. We were asked for an opinion. We were asked for a statement. This is not Euler. This is not where we are asked to consider something and vote on it, and then it goes to the next one. We were not asked to vote. We were asked to consider one tower. And our final verdict was to have that moved from in front of 144 and moved to a more commercial district in keeping with exactly how they have implemented that same technology throughout the community. We felt it made more sense to do it that way. Now, regarding how we did this and any conflict you may think with the bylaws, John, do you see any conflict with the bylaws? Yes or no?
Well, it's great to say, having been asked the question directly, I do have to give a response on the matter. And on the first, the speaker unfortunately has a bylaw that has the wrong part of the bylaw. And
Speak up.
the real part is Article 22, Article 23. And yes, it does say that stipulations that are determined by the chair after the board need to be taken before meetings can be held. Such actions can be made by the executive committee with the requirement that any action be taken be ratified by the full board at its next meeting. And the purpose of this article and action is defined as anything that the full board would normally vote on. That is what the bylaw says. And having been raised that question, the fact of the matter is that other boards have considered this as items which they vote on. I personally support what the executive board did at this time, and if the ratification will come, I would support it, but it does seem that it would be an item that would be ratified. As I said, I have to, as parliamentarian, I have to interpret the bylaws as the business.
And at the end of the day, we were asked to just advise. And during that entire process, it was our work with the gardens that got the tower eliminated from in front of 101, as the Office of Technology was not aware that that was private streets, that was private property, that they couldn't do a public project on private property. And the window for this decision is far gone. We are now, I believe it'll be a month tomorrow that this was due to them. And the reality is, as a board, you will learn this, new members, we are advisory. We can give all the best advice in the world. That doesn't mean the person to whom or the agency to whom we're providing that advice will actually take it. And what I also don't make a habit of is talking about how other boards conduct their business. That is their business, that is their community. That is not something I would want myself or any one of us to get into, because we all know New York is unique. And so if the community makes their decision, that is their decision. I'm gonna mind my neck, stay out of that. So if other boards made that decision, that's fine, but ours was one tower. Kevin, I'll take one question and then we have to keep moving on because I've also got the council member.
Madam Chair, District Manager, Parliamentarian, My name is Kevin Lee, CB6 member. Can I make a request that major decisions such as closing of the parking spaces and also the 5G towers, et cetera, that they are ratified by the general board or by law? I'm just giving that one example. I'm saying that there are decisions that are being made by the executive committee that some of it should come to the general board.
I understand your couple of them. I'm the chief status. I'm a member of the transportation committee. We did not vote to close down Ocean Street. We just simply voted to let the Department of Transportation do a study. That is all we voted on.
Okay, and I don't want this to go off the rails, but we sent them a statement. We actually said in that statement, wherein which we have the power, because we understand. And major decisions like ULURP and other things that are mandated come to us. Other things will as well. But this was a one tower situation. Other community boards had multiple towers. One community board had them going to historical districts, and we didn't feel that this was anything close to what we were doing. You gotta understand, the community board gets a variety of things that we are asked to review and respond to quickly. So that item itself didn't even need to go to the executive committee to that point. If it had been, Kevin, if it had been all the other installations that we've seen, because we've had a pile of installations that were not brought to us, that would have been an entirely different matter. It was multiple installations, but this was one single installation that we met on. So if anyone else has any concerns, reach out to the executive committee. I'd ask you to email all of us so that we could further deal with this. If you ever do feel that there's something not brought to the board that should be, please feel free to reach out to me directly. But I need to move on to the public comment section. Yes. Yes.
Could this issue, would the environmental committee be willing to take this issue up so that they can examine it properly, rather than repeatedly bringing it to the full board without any actual item on the agenda that we can act on? Because this is right.
So you're saying that if we have any further engagement with Office of Technology for any further installations in the community going forward, that all 5G would start in the Environmental Protection Committee, correct?
I would suggest that. I would even suggest that Ms. Wilkins see if she can come and speak to the environmental committee, so that the environmental committee can address this issue and decide whether to send action to the full board.
And that is something we could consider, but we would have to consider it later in the year because our Environmental Protection Committee is going on a brief hold while our chair has to take a break because she's taking maternity leave for a little bit. So Frank?
We listened to Deb Wilkins. We also listened to the people from OTI. This wasn't a one-sided situation, and I could have signed off on it.
Yeah, without even talking.
Without telling anybody or anything. That's my job. Okay? But I did bring it because we're so transparent and I do work so closely. The executive board and all of you. We are an independent city agency. So it's an independent city agency. We advise, we suggest, and we recommend. And if I'm going to be quoted, please quote me correctly.
Okay. All right, so we got to get back to public comment at this point. Appreciate all the passion in the room. Thank you. Next is Barry Rothenberg. Barry, thank you for your patience.
Oh, I had a little vertigo, so I'm gonna sit.
Oh heavens! But we've got two
Like
chairs.
a bad allergy.
Barry, we have two chairs right here. Grab one. Become ready. Go.
I don't want you to think I'm
Come his own chair. Barry.
Oh, I apologize. I'm not sitting out of laziness, it's just when you get this, that interview, I had like a little interview.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Barry Rothenberg. Who am I? 50 years, as started out bending metal in a shop in Ozone Park. My family was in the storefront business. So I had a wooden folding rule and measuring storefront since I'm a kid. What's my experience? It's a lifetime. If they're gonna take Austin Street and pipe dream it with some utopian nonsense, you're talking about a guy came up out of the blue with a utopian hype, is what it is. Safety is important. They added cross streets. They work wonderfully. I see people interacting. My office is right above Sephora. We developed Sephora, Shake Shack, and my new pet store tenant, which was needed. I love dogs, so they gotta have a place to eat. We're always doing the right thing for retail since I'm a kid. There's a bunch of problems. How can police get up a pedestrianized street if there's a robbery? What are they gonna do? Jog over with their firearms? How can fire get there in an emergency? They can't. How can commercial sanitation pick up garbage if there's no place to get up there? People have to go to doctors and medical appointments. What should these elderly people do? They should take their walkers and walk 7 blocks? I'd like to see Queen Center Mall without parking. Why don't we make a park at a Queen Center Mall's parking lots? We make a gathering space there. You're talking about the absolute destruction of a century-old shopping street because some dreamer that never had any skin in the game, that never ran a retail business, came up with a pipe dream utopian nonsense story. So I'm asking everyone, let's do the right thing. We got through this pandemic, it was tough. Businesses are just crawling out of a hole now, okay? They put bike lanes in our area. I'd love to see these bicyclists. I sat there 2 hours, I saw 4 bicycles on the most beautiful day today, okay? Use them. It's like a kid that gets a toy and doesn't use it. You got your bike lanes, start using them. How about that? You got park areas. They want to do a Spider-Man statue, it's beautiful. Use the green space we got. This is the most destructive concept ever that I've heard about a retail area. Anyone that wants to go to Sephora, they'll say, you know what? Let's go to Sephora in Manhasset. Because how are we gonna get there? We can't park. We're in a winter environment many months. If the weather's inclement, and that's it, it's inclement. Should I bring this back?
You might need it.
No, oh, that's mine. Oh, I got it. It was good. Thank you. No, I'm not in that bad shape. I just didn't want
The
to.
next public comment is Arthur Miller, and he's on. Okay, and he's on WebEx. Now listen.
He's not gonna speak, he just texted me.
He just texted you? Okay. He'll probably email us his comments.
He
Okay.
will.
So I believe, let me double check, that that's the end of the public comment period. Before we move into anything else, I'd like to bring up our council member, Lynn Schulman.
Say the
Did you
email
get a
before
response saying
3.
thank you for registering?
Yeah.
So it might have not have went through.
Come on up.
Well, if it came through, then we respond and say thank you for signing up.
No microphone anyway.
Can you
Yeah,
send us?
check.
Can you send us your comments like in writing so we can include it in the minutes?
So first
Thank you.
off, I wanna welcome the new board members that we have today, and that's one of the main reasons I came tonight. And also, and that everyone knows, I think I mentioned this in a previous meeting, my district is changing so that I'm not gonna have Regal Park anymore, pretty much, so I made sure to put a lot of people from Regal Park on the board this go round. So, because I won't be able to do that next year. I'm very glad to do that. I also wanna give a shout out to Heather and Frank for doing a great job with the board, and, it's not easy. So I wanted to do that. We've had a number of, programs and things like that, but recently we had Simon Wiesenthal Center did a hate forum, a few weeks ago that we had in the district. We're gonna have more where they're gonna come out and do some more about just hate crimes in general, but they issued a digital report card showing there's a lot of hate, for different groups on the internet and so forth. I will tell you, the sad thing is the day after this event, that there was swastika
cannabis found in Forest Hills, and, so the gentleman was caught, he actually did it in Manhattan and in Queens, so now he's in Manhattan, and so he's being prosecuted there by the DA's office there. But I've been working, my office has been working with the precinct and also working with, the DA's office and the hate crimes unit. The budget, so the preliminary budget response was done yesterday by the council, and we've asked for the restoration of cuts for the library, education, healthcare, and all of that, so we're really pushing on that. Unfortunately, today, the mayor's office came out with more cuts in addition to the ones they already proposed. So, the speaker's office put out something, about that, and I'm looking at the cuts from the healthcare perspective, because I'm chair of the health committee, so I'm gonna take a look at that and put something out about that as well. And it's early in the process, so we're gonna be going through a number of things around that. So I was very proud, I passed, legislation that's creating the first of its kind citywide diabetes reduction plan, program, and, what it does is it charges the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene with putting together a robust, plan around reducing the incidence of diabetes in New York City, which, to be honest with you, rose precipitously after COVID. People weren't getting checked, not getting screenings, and also it was one of the, underlying medical conditions that caused very severe outcomes for COVID too, if people have it. So we're really excited about doing that. The council's gonna be putting money towards that as well. And I actually introduced legislation to, for there to be a portal so people can find out about free CPR classes, because if somebody goes into cardiac arrest, it's great to be able to do CPR, so we did that. And I'm also introducing, we don't have the details yet, but I will be introducing at the next meeting of the council, a bill to hold commercial landlords liable that rent to illegal weed shops. I think it's something that's really important. We talked about this with the board before. They do get we check legally, they do get a notification from the city that they are renting to an entity that performs illegal activity. And so with that notification, we can hold them liable. So we're looking at the details of how to do that and working with the state as well. And, so hopefully that will help, because what happens is with these illegal places, one is that I held a hearing, and at the hearing we found out that the products that most of them sell is E. coli and salmonella and all kinds of things that you wouldn't necessarily think you would find in these products. And they also are cash business, so they are prone to robberies, which has happened. By the way, I want to stop for a second. I want to give a shout out to Leslie Brown, who does amazing work with the Forest Hills Chamber. So, thank you. Yesterday we had through the Queens Chamber of Commerce, we did a small business forum with myself as health chair and also the chair of the small business committee in the council to talk to small businesses, particularly restaurants in the area, and how we can help them with making sure that they're not overburdened with all kinds of regulations, and also to make sure from the health perspective that the inspections are done the right way so that it doesn't burden them as well, because our businesses are small mom-and-pop businesses that are important to us. So with that's the end of my presentation. A lot's been going on, so and I will take.
Okay, we're gonna take them in this order. Steve next, Kevin Lee, and then Mark Lester, and I see Pat again. All right, so there we go. Starting with Steve.
Last month, I sent a message to the chair in regards to the fact that every single one of these dispensaries, these legal dispensaries I had gone to, they all seem to be selling the same product. I'm wondering if there's anything that
Steve, a little bit louder.
I'm wondering if there's
Thank
anything
you.
that the state or city can do in regards to the actual companies that distribute the products, considering they all seem to be coming from the same source.
So the answer to that is hopefully yes. What's happening is that when the state created legalized cannabis, they didn't give the cities in the state the ability to do any enforcement against any illegal activity. Right now, my understanding is that part of the budget, of the state is that they're gonna give more enforcement capabilities to the city, so yeah, we can do that. And, what I'm gonna ask you to do is, well, Kevin McAleer, by the way, from my office is in the back, but if you can get from the office, whatever, and talk to us so that we can circle back with you, that'd be great.
We can forward his question, because his question was that these are all coming from the same distributor. And if you Google it, you can buy it in many other states, and it'll tell you you can't buy it in this state. So it's interesting in that you try to buy it online, you hit a wall.
So, yeah, so I appreciate the invitation.
Next is Kevin.
Councilmember, thank you for everything that you do. What can we as a community board do to support the businesses on Austin Street, Metropolitan Avenue, Yellowstone Boulevard, and Queens Boulevard?
Well, listen, I mean, first of all, shop at them. I shop at our local stores. I prefer to do that. And I go to the local restaurants, and in fact, as an example, there's a place called Cafe Forest Hills, that's on Burn Street. It's a little place. It's great because there's a couple. They actually worked for one worked for Price Waterhouse. They worked for big accounting firms, and they decided to quit and open a coffee shop. And so I make sure that when I see new places opening up, that I go and I amplify it on social media. That would be helpful too. Tag them and all of that, and create a buzz. So, and I've been talking to the owner. Said that they're expanding the menu. They're doing really well. So I think that that's important. And also trying post-COVID, we're trying to make sure that we can. I know that the chair of the Small Business Committee is going to be introducing. She hasn't done it yet. Introducing legislation to try and relieve some of the issues that people are cited for that don't necessarily have to do with people's health or anything else that, are kind of nuisance. So we're trying to work on those kinds of things as well, in the council. But, so those are like a couple of things.
Mark.
Councilman, my question pertains to organic recycling. We know the mayor restarted our curbside composting program. I'm just concerned, you just mentioned that today the mayor is looking to cut. Is that something he's looking to cut, given that
It's not clear yet. They released it today. We're still looking at what it is, but we wanna try and, that's something that's a priority for the council too, in terms of sanitation piece and all of that. So, yeah,
We know, of course, the council has a bill pending that would make curbside composting
yes.
mandatory.
And I signed, I'm a co-sponsor of that legislation.
Okay. The mayor is also now recommending making yard waste.
So we're trying to analyze what's going on. This is, the budget, during the budget period, it's kind of it's a back and forth of negotiations, and so we're trying to figure all those pieces out.
Thank you.
And Pat Morgan in the back.
Hi, first of all, thank you for everything. Concerning the diabetes health plan, a lot of us who are diabetic who are especially on Medicare, cannot get the continuous diabetes meters such as the Dexcom or the Libre or a few others unless we're on insulin, and some of us can't take insulin. So is there any way that the city can help us who are diabetic to get these meters and to be able to afford them, get coupons, because you can't use any of the coupons if you're on a federal or state plan? Is there anything that can be done? Because that would help us greatly.
Well, one of the things that I did mention to the health commissioner was to be able to measure one's A1C levels, and so we're going to have discussions around that. I'm not sure how much money we're going to be able to put into the budget this year for that, but they have. So that's a conversation I've had with them, and I will continue to have with them, and we can circle back. But that's on my mind to do. So one of the things that I want to get done.
The thing about the A1C, for those of you who don't know what it is, the HbA1c measures for a 3-month period your diabetes. For example, it should be below 5.9. Anything above that gives you worry. If you're somebody who's diabetic and it comes up 7.0, your doctor's going to tell you you need medicine. If it comes up above 8, you're prone for a stroke. But the problem is, you can hit a high and have a number of highs on different things and then have lows. The HGA1C is only an advisory. The thing that we need are daily meters to be able to, for example, I use 8 strips to 10 strips a day. It becomes costly for me. And this is what I'm asking for the city to help subsidize those of us who's, getting these meters. You buy the strips. They're $50 for 50 strips. And if you use 8 a day during the course of a month, that's an extra $100 a month. But if we could get continuous glucose meters that you could see on your phone, you can measure, you'll have a better idea and not set yourself up for a stroke or set yourself up for a low and end up passed out on the street and somebody thinking you OD'd.
So, that's something that like I said, I've talked to them about. We're gonna see, they told me that it was prohibitive in terms of expense, but I wanna follow up with them. We're trying to see, I talked to the mayor's office about putting some money in on their own. We're trying to put some in it for the council. Once my diabetes bill, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene has a year to put together the comprehensive plan, and as part of it, I told, once that's done, then we're gonna try to put more money towards it so that we can do things like that.
Thank you.
One last question from Canberra.
Well,
Sorry,
just
Martha.
a comment, I really think it's great that you talked about the commercial businesses and making sure that they're not, renting to somebody that's doing a illegal dispensary. I was wondering if we could also maybe at some point have a conversation just about how housing is healthcare in general, and how this community often sometimes discriminates against people with vouchers, people with previous criminal records. A lot of it stems down to racism, so I would love to see what we can
Kendra and I
do
have
in
known
that.
each other a long time, and so housing, yeah. So one is that's one of the priorities of the council is the housing piece, and we want to make sure because people have vouchers and we increase the vouchers, but they're still not being taken in a lot of places. So we're trying to figure out how we can do the enforcement mechanism on that. So I've been talking to my colleagues about that as well. So we're trying to figure that piece out. Also, I want folks to know that the developments that I have approved have gone through. So just so people know, in terms of when a developer comes to me, I do it from the ground up. So a lot of times developers are used to calling a council member and saying, I want to do this, and then the council member goes along with it, and that's it. I make sure it goes through, and Heather knows this, I make sure it goes through the community board first and the borough president, and then I get involved in it. And then we see where we are. But I'm the first one to put a full affordable housing development in this district.
Thank you, and just know whatever help you need. I still see folks that have experienced discrimination myself in this community.
No,
with housing.
understood, and it shouldn't be, but that's why we're trying to, those vouchers, even though we increase the amount, some of the landlords don't take it, and that's something that we're having a conversation about.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Councilmember Coleman.
Sorry, happy Passover to those who celebrate, and happy Easter to those who celebrate.
Thank you.
Oh, Ramadan, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
This big fat pack of minutes. I need a motion to approve, or does anyone have any change, before we approve them, does anyone have any changes? Bless the person who read the whole thing. That was a big one. I'm just being honest, it's a big match. Okay, I need a first, that's how it works. I need a motion to accept the minutes as written. Okay, Brentley, I need a second. Howard, all in favor, say aye. Hot damn, that's good. Okay, guys, I know, it's a long time getting here, but here's the deal. Public comment is very important. We need public comment, so sometimes it's gonna be drag and drive. But these were people, unlike last meeting, these were actually people from our community. Last meeting was a lot of folks who cared about 5G, but who weren't from our community. These are people from our community tonight. So that was really important. I'm gonna hop real quick, because I can talk real fast and get into my chair's report. First, first, we have new members tonight, and I wanted to do an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves, but we're running a bit behind because of public comments tonight. So I'm hoping we can do that in May, and it will also be better because we'll have some of our other members who had to be absent for traveling and so on, and it'll give us a chance. So we'll delay that till next meeting. I wanted to let you know that on March 8th, the district manager and I attended a meeting with the chief of patrol. He is looking to partner with community boards on persistent issues within the district. We are encouraged to report that his representative reached back out to us just 2 days after the meeting, and we provided him background on the following issues: overnight tractor-trailer parking along Grand Central Parkway Service Road and behind Forest Hills High School, which if you've been on this board long enough, you know that's a big, fat, juicy problem. Number 2, challenges due to homelessness in our community. And the good thing is we have a good community partner for that. And the other was delivery vehicle behavior, which goes to the scooter issue that was brought up earlier. The reason that when you talk about Austin Street, we didn't talk about those electric vehicles that come up behind you on the sidewalk and you can't hear them, was because this is not an issue that is just for Austin Street. I see it up in my neck of the woods in Regal Park, and I see it elsewhere. So this is a district-wide issue. So that's why it wouldn't have come up specifically on that, because it is something that we are addressing as a district, because that is the issue. So just so you know, the chief of patrol is looking into these issues and finding ways that he can provide additional support so that we can address these issues creatively. One of the things he made clear about the deliveristas in the communities, they don't want to do something punitive, because these are guys hustling hella hard to get us our food and to make a business and to take care of their families. So they want to find a solution that will work with them, that will help them, so that we can better work with them, so that they have places. Because you know, sometimes that they bulk up down around Austin Street during lunch and dinner time. So the chief of patrol says he wants to be very careful with how they address that issue. So I appreciate the compassionate perspective, and we're really anxious and excited about that. And we'll report back. We're talking like the projects for Queens North, which is a huge chunk of our community, and there's a lot of issues happening throughout that. So this won't be like next meeting I'll have an update. When we do, we'll let you know. Now, over the past 21 days, since it's only been 21 days since we met, since our meeting was early, our board has been busy. We have had 5 committee meetings, 1 intergenerational panel, and 1 co-sponsored event teaching our neighbors how to report a hate crime. And just this afternoon, we received responses to our numerous questions from the Office of Cannabis Management, and we will distribute those in our Friday distribution to the entire board, which will be helpful for new members, so you can sort of get an idea as to some of the questions we were asking and so on. And then myself, in conjunction with the district manager, also worked to address a couple of other issues in the district. We got a complaint about the construction on the Long Island Railroad. It's around 71st and Burns. And so we checked it out. We talked to the workers there, and they're working very hard. They're actually repairing the bridge, all of the iron and steel underneath there, because it's eroding, it's falling apart. And we know what happens if that doesn't get done. It is an essential project, and the crew is working as quickly as they can, as diligently as they can. But as with all these projects, you get in there and you find more of a problem than maybe you anticipated. And so as they work across the sidewalk on the Boston Market side, will eventually open up, but eventually on the Forest Hills Station House side, it will close up. So they're working across, but they are working every day. If you're here during the weekday between 9 and 5, you will hear that very loud Sunbelt motor running. So they are working very hard on that. The other thing we worked on was the closure of bike lanes during the street fairs on Queens Boulevard. All of us, learned about a new policy from CECM that was brought to our attention about 2 weeks ago, that when a street fair is taking place on that roadway on Queens Boulevard, like the local piece, that when a bike lane isn't hardened, meaning those Jersey cement barriers, they must close to bike traffic. After a site visit with the citywide event coordination and management, between myself, the district manager, and them, it was determined that a cone-protected eastbound bike lane could be created in the express lane of Queens Boulevard. On their advice, our district manager reached out to the 112, and they were unable to accommodate our request for 4-2, which we expected, because it was literally, we called it Friday and it was happening on Sunday, so let's be realistic. Unfortunately, though, they also indicated they wouldn't be able to accommodate our requests for July or October as well. But we are continuing to work on this issue and hope to have some better news to report back next month. Our main concern is just keeping keeping travelers within our community safe, and as spring gives way to summer, we have more travelers on bikes, so we just wanna make sure they're safer, and because also on Sundays, the alternate path, which would be to go up by the post office, is just not available because of the farmer's market that's open. So, so there's that. Now, on March 16th, we put out a statement regarding our request for a DOT study with Austin, on Austin Street, regarding safety within the corridor. We were obligated to do this when editorials were being run and circulated that weren't wholly factual. As chair, I don't mind if we disagree on ideas. I married a man who was a completely different political party than myself, so clearly, if I've been with him for 27 years, we're doing something right, and I can tolerate opposite ideas. What I don't tolerate are alternate facts. And so I wanted to explain a few things. There was a mention of cars being allowed after 8 p.m. Well, the first thing I want to say is there is no plan. This is a study. This would be like you have a lump and you don't know what that lump is. So what do? You go to the doctor, you get x-ray, blood work, chest CT, whatever you need. You get tests to diagnose the problem. We isolated a problem. Austin Street is not safe. So what are we doing? We are asking professionals, DOT, to determine how to rectify the problem, how to protect pedestrians who are shoppers, eaters, consumers of these restaurants, how to keep them safe. So that is what we have asked them to do. So understand, whenever you hear someone say, well, this is the plan, there is no plan. We don't even know what the real problems are. As you've been on this board long enough to know, we've done different things. We have a new signal pattern at 71st and Austin Street that we've tried to use to mitigate the problem. They installed a light down right outside of Target to try to, again, mitigate the problem. We have reworked issues down on Yellowstone and Austin Street so many times. We built a curb extension, we installed curb extensions elsewhere. We have been working this problem for a while, but what we're doing isn't working. And if you Google this, you will see that back in 1970 something, traffic was a problem on Austin Street back then too. So this is not something new. And so we are constantly aware of a problem that we are trying to tend to in this community. So we put out a statement, and the idea that cars would be permitted after 8 o'clock, I don't know where that came from. Again, there is no plan. And there was also the mention that this was not based on facts. And I want to make it clear to you that when we as a board look at these situations, we look at data. New York City does an amazing job at supplying us with the data we need. They give us data like how many car accidents, like if you go to open data, you can see this. And what we found was that in a couple of years span, there were 290 some odd, and if I'm wrong, correct me, 290 accidents between 290, give or take a couple, between 2018 and 2022 on Austin Street. 219, give or take, 200, is it 19 or 290? 291, around. And then, so those were with injuries. Without injuries, there was about 70 some, within about the same period. That is not something that you ignore. So when we talk about data, we look at data. We don't ignore 200 and some odd accidents in a given period of time with injuries. And it doesn't matter to us what the cause of the accident was. We know that there were 200 plus odd accidents happening in a certain period of time, and we need to figure out why they're happening so they don't happen. Because those accidents happen to people, happen to bus drivers, happen to cyclists, happen to pedestrians. And so we don't want people coming into our business district and getting injured. So I wanted to explain that to you all so that you understood that there is no plan. We're waiting for the DOT. It is going to take a while. We are still waiting on a study that we asked for a year and a half ago from Jewel Avenue, the study that our former chair asks about all the time. So this is going to take time, and we want it to take time because we want to make sure that we have all the facts. So I wanted to just explain to you all, if you want to read the statement that we put out in a sort of frequently asked question style so that we addressed each thing that was inaccurate. You can find it on our Twitter feed. We did circulate to the board for new members. If you'd like it, you can email me directly and I'll gladly email it to you. Now, I want to say something. For new members of this board, there is a quote from the TV series Afterlife that really sums up the work we do here on Community Board 6. It says, a society grows great when old men plant trees, the shade of which they will never sit in. Good people do things for other people. We are good people. Maybe not all. You can speak for yourselves. But we are good people that will be advising on matters and projects in our district that will take a long time to come to fruition. But this is a worthwhile endeavor nonetheless. Much of our work looks to the future. And sometimes that is the challenge when we talk about projects such as 5G, where we don't have all of the facts. Because there's still a lot to learn and understand, and I want to keep on learning and understanding about 5G. And when we talk about Austin Street, some of the folks who came last week were concerned about the environment and the effects of cars on the environment. So again, sometimes we have to make decisions in the present for the future. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there so that if you find that you're working on something and it's dragging on forever, don't get discouraged. Frank has been district manager waiting since 1994 to have a library built, and we're gonna finally break ground in, Martha, what, 2024? Is that about right?
2023 this spring.
Woo! No, 2024.
Oh, they changed it? Because the original email said 20.
Yeah, they changed it.
Okay, 2024. I'll take it.
Ringo Park. And just wait for Martha's report. She'll give you all the information. And we did send out the Ringo Park presentation that we got from Queens Public Library and DEC last week. So if you go back to your Friday distribution, you can see all the floor plans, the pictures. It's going to be beautiful. So that is, I believe, my report for tonight, because I've said more than enough. Do I have any questions from the floor? Heidi?
Just a possible comment, and I actually replied to Peter when he mentioned it to me on Facebook.
Okay.
We are in a situation now, there are gonna be a couple of more street fairs. We have a bicycle lane on the other side of Queens Boulevard. I don't know what measurement they would have to do to make it a two-way. There are successful two-way bike lanes in the city of New York. Brooklyn Bridge is a prime example. It could be that during the street fairs, if the other side would be allowed to be two-way, it could at least provide safe passage with a minimal amount of disturbance. I do not know, I'm not a DOT engineer, I do not know the width that DOT is gonna say that they need to change the one-way into two-way, but it might be an interim solution.
Okay.
And I would strongly suggest somebody learning the width and et cetera, as I said,
Okay, maybe we can take this offline and yourself, Peter, and other folks, we can kind of loop in and have a conversation.
But just as a thought, so
No,
that
I
it's
appreciate
not, it's not a problem, everybody's safe, and it could be, an implemented solution rather than something that might not be that easy.
Okay, and then next, Mark.
That's a great thought, but I want to let you know that it already exists in the bike rider. So I know the new one is up McDonald across the street by the bank. That's going in the correct flow of traffic. There's a bike lane too.
Right, so I'm saying that if we could take that one and make it for the area next to the park, just on these days, and turn it into a
What
two-way.
Heidi's referring to is if, for instance, you're down by the Brooklyn Navy or shopping at Wegmans.
How could you ever know such a thing?
You'll see
It's
that there
wonderful,
is-
if anyone hasn't gone, go.
There is two-way traffic there on bikes. The first time I encountered it, it was kind of disconcerting because in this community, we only have this way and they're on the alternate sides. But down there, they have them combined, so it's not like it hasn't happened. So that could be a temporary solution, and we can take this offline and figure that out. Any other questions? Because I want to move to the district manager's report if there isn't. TT, good evening.
The DOT studies, you were saying that, we're not necessarily aware of all the problems on Austin, so.
TT, a little bit louder if you can. A little bit louder.
Sure.
Thank you.
The DOT study, like how you mentioned, we're not necessarily aware of all of the issues on Austin Street. So does the study look to identify problems as well as solutions, or are
Yes.
we saying we found these issues, please do a study regarding these issues?
When we presented them with our request, with our resolution, we cited specific things that we saw that were problematic. However, the expectation is that they will look at all of the issues, not just our issues in isolation. They have to. So they will be considering everything. So they will come back to us with their data, and they will come back to us with a potential plan. And one thing that's nice is Frank and I were at a meeting with DOT in December, and one of the things that they did promise is that they would be getting back to us in more detail than they were before, because it used to be yes, no, and we were like, well, why? So we will be getting more detail going forward. Okay? Yes, Kevin.
Can I make a request that future resolutions come before the full board?
I think they do. This resolution, I think there are, this is something, I know that, the 5G situation has brought this up, but understand that that was a letter, that was never a resolution. It was literally a letter responding to their letter to us saying, can you respond to us? This resolution did come before the board, but I don't think we had to vote on the resolution, correct, Peter?
Resolutions calling for studies. And for those who don't know me, I'm Peter Beadle. I'm first vice chair of the board, and I'm also the chair of the transportation committee. Resolutions calling for studies haven't come before. It's just asking for a study. It's not taking a position on whatever it is being asked to be studied about, because we need to know the data ourselves. And so the transportation committee and other committees often send letters or resolutions to different agencies asking that they look into an issue and report back. If the DOT were to come back and say, okay, we've done our study, we recommend X, not only would that have to have a public hearing so that everybody's input could be gathered, but it wouldn't be the transportation committee that would be the final voice. The transportation committee in that instance might vote on a recommendation to the full board, and then the full board would vote on it. That's how we've always done it. To bring every item of business to the full board before any sort of action can be taken by an agency would weigh this board down, in my opinion, with extra administrative stuff. We're not taking any final actions on anything. We're not committing the board to a particular position on an action. It's simply asking DOT to do a study. And we shouldn't be afraid of studies and requesting data.
So is the answer no?
My recommendation would be that I don't think that's necessary. You know, I leave it to others to decide.
On resolutions, we've brought certain resolutions to the full board, but a request for a study.
Renee is unmuted. Renee is
I don't have,
unmuted.
I can't mark, there is, this was a resolution, we could have called it a request for a study, I don't even think it needed to be, asking for a study, please, you know what, I'm gonna turn this over to you.
So, my name's Frank Galusha. I'm the district manager. She talks about all the time. Nice supposed to laugh. We snuff a little bit. Welcome new members, the newbies. Welcome. And for those of you who are back, boy, you guys are looking for punishment. Bruce, and I see Mr. Shantz back there. Yeah. Thanks, David. Thanks, both of you guys coming back. So to answer your question, Kevin, I write letters literally every day. Requests come in. That's what we do. For your information, I also meet with the deputy from DOT once a month. And I think those of you who've been around, we have a cabinet meeting in my office, right? And I meet with all the heads of different city agencies. So I don't always have to go through the board. That's what I get paid to do, is to make things right. I do confer with Peter literally on every transportation issue because he really is the expert on this stuff. There's some stuff coming down the pipe that he's bringing to his transportation committee that certainly will, in one way or other, come back to us because I also need advice on some of that stuff. Heather and I, and I'm not kidding when I tell you, we talk a number of times a day on different issues. We
we work very, very close. A little bit of what I've been doing, I did meet with the chief of recreation for parks. For those of you who are into parks, actually today, going through all their great plans for Queens, particularly us, all the different items, and Gina was, she's not here, but she always talks about the good stuff that they do. I also met today with the MTA, the Long Island Railroad, their intergovernmental person, and they spoke about their ADA projects that are happening. Asking if there are any in our neighborhood, the answer to that question is no, but they are getting here, but then so is Christmas, as they say. Mike Arcadi, our resident military guy, told me to ask me to remind everybody about Memorial Day, the parade. It's a huge parade. We'd like to see everybody come out. We'll keep talking about that every single month. So May. Oh, it's next month, actually. To the new members. I said it before because my blood pressure went to 2,000 when I said we are a city agency. We really are an official city agency. And we advise, we suggest, and we recommend. We don't legislate. That's what the electeds do. When we need them, we reach out to them and we say, hey, can you do this? Can you help us with that? And we try and work with all of them, all the time. Back to the new members again. In about a week or 2 or 3, you'll receive something like this in the mail. This particular folder has in it, and it's your homework. Talks about us, talks about all the committees, and we'll talk about that later on. It identifies my staff. 2 of them are in the back. That's Christine, my right hand, my left hand, and that's Barbara, also my right hand and my left hand. Barbara's not here. No, she's Maria's not here. Also in the packet, we're sending you the bylaws. If you have any questions, turn them over to that guy in the corner over there. And a couple of our resolutions. There'll be more stuff in it. Feel free to call us, please. That's what we're here to help you guys, gals, every single day. By the way, Lynn is gone, but I wanted to mention that I attended on Monday with her, with the Queens Chamber and Metro Village Chamber, which is a really big asset to the metropolitan area. They did a thing with the restaurants regarding beverage and hospitality, and the health department was there. Also, Julie Menon was there, another council member, right on metropolitan area. They had standing room only for our restaurants and et cetera on the area. And there were people there from all over Queens, but particularly we had a lot from Forest Hills. Also, there's something coming up, but Mark's going to talk about. I don't want to give away what this subject is, but capital expense. He will explain that.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you. My name is Mark Laster. I'm the 3rd Vice Chair of the Community Board. And in that role, I oversee our budget priority setting process. So what is that? So the council member mentioned that right now they're in the process of negotiating the budget. Last year, we came together, different committees met, and identified budget priorities. So shall we frank for a second, we don't cut any checks. We do not allocate any money. What we do is we indicate to the city what needs are of our community. So there are 2 basic categories. There's something called the capital expense, which is usually about $35,000 and has to have a useful life of 5 years. For an example, we talked about the Regal Park Library. That's considered a capital expense. There's something called a regular expense, budget priority, and that's like a program. And again, for example, you see in the flyer here, Queens Community House Meals on Wheels. So that's an expense item. So the process that we've developed and that we're going to continue to work on this year, and we made some modifications based upon some feedback we got last year. So the first phase is going to be the committee review phase. Every committee has can make recommendations to the full board about what they see in their subject area for budget priorities. It could be, again, either capital or expense. So we have last year's budget priorities, So from April, starting this month through the end of June, we're asking each committee to review the budget priorities that were recommended last year, and then update them, see if you want to reshuffle them. So that'll be the first part of the process. The second part, which we added last year, which we're now giving more time to this year, is there's going to be a public input phase, which is going to run from July to August, and community members will get surveys and indicate what they think the budget needs are for our community. So that's the public input phase. Then in September, we're going to have all the chairs of the different committees, or if the chairs can't make it, somebody they designate, to come together to review all the recommendations and to rank them. And we will then come up with a ranking. For expense items, we're only allowed to recommend up to 25. And again, want to emphasize, what are the big takeaways for new members tonight? We are advisory. We can advise, but we don't cut checks, and we don't tell people how much money to spend. So in the all chair